Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, a little bit. But in fact, in Hevre, if we need, we have a night all the time. But looking for the clock, especially on the autumn, start to be late afternoon, the beginning of evening. So we have a second lecture today, and the first lecture at Hevre. This is a tradition which we use for several years. Depending on the setup of the concert, sometimes the lecture is kind of introduction to the concert. Sometimes it's a very special report. The Mariska lecture was this kind. She was lecturing and she was presenting her stuff after the show yesterday. So sometimes we are part of this discussion. What is better, before or so? Your lecture anticipate your program in the same place. So we have Alfredo, Costa, Monteiro, and Ferran, Fages from Barcelona. Barcelona, you should say like the Beatles. It's the same phoneme, I think, with the tongue in a right position. So they are friends for a long time, and LUM project is a project which we will be part of. But in fact, the LUM plays something. Yeah, this is the concept. Exactly. The LUM is the name of the group. Mm-hmm. Yes. And in an audio tradition, sometimes it's a very special idea that the title of the project is also the name of the group, and this is the case. You understand? Okay. And for that reason, many years ago, I was making a very special arrangement with Zyx, with our copyright company, because usually we have column author, title of the work, performers. So, in case of sound art, they're stuck together. So we are repeating them. So sometimes we need to explain it. And that's quite a special case. I don't want to stay longer about this aspect of the art. Yeah. So we have our artists almost in the place, because behind them there's a concert setting, but we move a little bit to the front to get closer. Okay. Okay. So your turn. Thank you very much for coming, and good luck.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you, all the team, to make it possible.
Yeah, sure. So we're very happy to be here, and welcome to the lecture and then the concert. Hope you will stay. We'll see. We would like to start by playing some sounds, which we comment afterwards. Okay, so just we go for it. So, this is, as a matter of introduction, this is our last fragment of our last release. It's called Epilogue. And we wanted to play this fragment to introduce ourselves. First, because we played this piece separately, which is not casual, neither habitual, because we play together. But we wanted to, this epilogue is the third part of a long process. That's why it's composed by two pieces separately. First, Ferran on guitar, and myself on electronics and resonant objects. And it was a way to introduce a bit our project. We've been playing together for many years. We met around 2000.
25 years.
More or less.
More or less.
Yeah. But we started to work together around 2000. And we played for almost 18 years, more or less, in a previous project called Cremaster, which was quite noisy.
More noise orientated, no?
Yeah, so with some noise elements, but it was not noise music, but there were some noisy parts. And we decided to stop and then start a new project. And we've been working in this project called Yum for 2 years, more or less now.
3 years now.
3 years, yeah. Time flies. We wanted to start a quite different approach to our collaborations because we had been involved in improvised music a lot with many other projects, and we wanted to do something really concentrated and particular. So that's why we took a bit, not the opposite, but we thought that we had developed such an amount of language for so many years that it would be interesting to dig in some of these things that we had been constructing all over the years. So we decided to work more in a way where we take out sounds than we add. So this is not the opposite of the previous project called Cremaster, but in a way we decided to give more time to the events, more resonance and less noise, to play in, let's say, a lower register of sounds in order to create like a new way of working with some instruments that we had been working with for many years. Ferran works with, but he's going to talk about his own part. He's been working with the guitar for many years, and I've been working with this setup for many years too, but in different contexts. So with same instruments, we are involved in different approaches. We would like this lecture to be like a living interaction, so you can ask questions whenever you want, or say things, because we are open to this exchange. Maybe Ferran can explain a bit his approach to the guitar and how he conceives his collaboration with within the duo.
Okay, my main instrument is guitar. I started playing guitar when I was really young, mainly involved in rock projects or more experimental. But suddenly, at one point in early 2000, I stopped playing guitar. I was in a crisis, so I wasn't happy with what I learned or what I see that I could make with the instrument. So I started to develop another strategies to make music, to make sound. That's why we met with Alfredo. I was working with electronics, with objects, with mics, and I started to develop this language of amplifying and working with resonance and vibrating things. But after some years of the stop playing guitar, I take back to the guitar and I started to rethink as an instrument. So because of this consequence of stop playing guitar and start making other things, I started a new approach with the instrument, so I started to work a lot with, let's say, alternative tunings, not standard tunings, try to find ways to make more, for me, interesting and challenging things with resonance, and also work with the instrument as a sound object more than the guitar itself. And little by little I started developing, well, my own path with the instrument. And when with Alfredo we decided to stop Cremaster, that it was a big project that we were really working and busy, and we wanted to collaborate again and make music together, so I decided to incorporate the guitar as the instrument, and mainly as a sound generator of small events. That these events are related with tuning, timbre, or resonance, more than playing few notes on the guitar or taking the guitar and try to make some music. So that's my approach with the instrument. It's more like a sound object that I separate like in 3 layers, like the tuning, like the body of the guitar itself, and the electronics of the guitar. And that's all. So the guitar, it becomes something that maybe reminds you a guitar, but maybe it's not a guitar itself. So I'm dealing with this idea, and also the music we're trying to make with Hume is, well, to put this, we're always like in a cliff, no? In some path that we're not really sure if it's like a songs or we are developing some stuff, but we are more playing with time and resonance. So that's I think how I see what we're doing with this project. So
yeah, and when we decided to continue collaborating, it was like, what shall we do now? Because in the earlier project, Ferran used to play electronics, and I used to play guitar. So it's funny. Now it's the contrary. But the way I played the guitar, I'm not a guitar player myself, but I used, as he said, like a sound generator. So I was using the guitar not like a guitar, but like an object producing sounds, but in a more noisier way than he is doing now. So in a way we crossed. It's funny we realized it later on, that I was playing the guitar and he was playing electronics, and now if we can consider what I'm playing like electronics, which is not really that, I will explain later on, but there was like a mirror effect, and we exchanged our instruments, even if he's using the guitar in another way, and I am using the electronics in another way as he was using before. In my case, I have been developing this setup, which is very variable depending on the project. I was here like 4 years ago playing a solo, and I used a quite similar setup with amplified springs, but the result was very different. It was more powerful thing that I will do tonight, because in this project we are pretty much producing sounds, as Ferran explained, which have to do with timbre and resonance and time. So we let the events to create themselves, to create their own architecture in a way, and for that we need to give them time, and it's not necessarily something that we construct with or through volume. So it's a very different approach. I will play these amplified objects mainly with a small mixing board, which I use as feedback generator to produce tones. And the idea is to interact with these sounds that he's producing, and it's also true in the other way. So there is a kind of construction but starting with this idea of resonance and time. Time is it has become much more important than in the previous project. That's why it's a kind of let's say an effect of mirror in a way, which is not exactly the contrary, but in a way the two approaches are quite in a diverse path. I don't know if you have some questions, or maybe we can go on playing another extract. You will see that in a way this project is quite concentrated. I mean, oh, there's no internet.
Oh.
Ah, okay. We're going backwards, so we're going to play some minutes, a fragment of the previous release,
Cuda.
called Cuda, which is a palindrome. We will explain later, because we're trying to have a kind of continuity in this project, which was also a different approach from the previous collaborations we've had. In this project, we really want to have a kind of direction, and this is a quite important thing for us. So we're going to play some minutes, and then we can continue talking.
This is a short excerpt, but just to put in context, we started these pieces, we started as idea of series, according that we're working in a, let's say, improvise, but not improvise, and compose and not compose. We are, with Alfredo, with this project, we are deciding things and talking about like a form or like what we want. And as we are working in this vague area of working time, space, some kind of repetitions to make a new space, one concept that came along was this idea of series, like let's make some kind of composition that has a something in common, but each time could be different, but at the end it's always with the same kind of material. So that's why we have been working with these recordings, Aduk, Kuda, and Epilogue. And we have to say that these recordings are made, we recorded separately with some ideas in mind about timings, and then we put it together, and that's all. But we have been working together before to make the recording. So is this new situation that I think it's also, it's a challenging, and it's only possible because, okay, we know each other for many years, so it's a challenging situation to work, to not repeat the same strategies, but just to make it make grow and find something new in this new approach. So maybe you can explain a little bit more without making any spoiler. So why we are choosing this, or I don't know if you want to start, so maybe we can, well, make it more, or you want to add something?
Just about what he was saying, as we've been playing so much together, so for so many years, we're trying to find another way of being together, but separately, but being separated together. I don't know if it's clear, but it's like a couple, you know, in a way, you know, like, because when you're working with somebody for so many years, you generate lots of effects also, not just through music, but also through relationship. And how can we continue working together without, as he said, repeating the same structures? So we're trying in this format of a duo, trying to find different solutions to not repeat the same problems in a way, because when it's repeated and when it's not wanted, it starts to become a problem. And we feel much more comfortable trying to invent new forms of playing together. So this was, as he said, a series. We will listen to a fragment of the first part in the end. And also for to have in mind clearly that we wanted to go in a more arid way than we used to work before. We chose this setup too, in a way, to be in a kind of resonance also, not just with the sounds, but also with our sounds together. How can they resonate together? That's why I'm working with these long resonant springs, objects which are springs, because in a way they reproduce a sound of a string which can be left for quite a long time. It was not a clear decision at the beginning. So what was clear was that Ferran wanted to play the guitar. It was very clear at the beginning. And I was not quite sure what to play. So in the end, it was like, as we said before, this kind of mirror effect that I ended up by playing this. But we're thinking in another series, which will be the next, soon we'll start working on this. But I have an idea, I have a desire in a way to change my instrument. So I don't know what I will play. Ferran maybe will continue playing the guitar.
I will keep.
Okay, but that's the idea too, to try to find new ways. And if we have to change the instrument, well, in my case, I have no problem. And both we are multi-instrumentalists too, because in other projects we have developed sounds with other instruments. So we are used to that, to change. But we change the instrument, but we don't change the approach. That's the idea.
We're playing with sounds.
Yeah.
So the sound source is not so important.
Exactly.
It's more the ideas behind.
Yeah.
And one thing that also I think it's important to mention is that we wanted to separate these recordings as studio recordings in a different way than as we play live. So we wanted also to make it more challenging, because what we're going to play, we already play it, but in other situations, but not the studio recordings are planned to be as a studio recording, so not improvised material, so more composed stuff. So that's the main difference for us also.
The show tonight is going to be, like you talked earlier about a series, right? The series of recording. So it's going to be part, like it is the series.
Yes.
And the show is part of the series. Or is the whole series? Just
No, we're not going to play anything from this.
Okay.
But we're still finishing like a cycle, we could say, using the same instrument. So we will play in that direction. But it will be quite different, because both we come from the world of improvised music. We've been playing improvised music since the end of the 90s in many projects. So we are very much influenced by this way of playing sounds. So tonight will be more an improvised concert, but with this idea, which is...
but the concepts, the sounds,
Yeah.
and the way of dealing with the sounds will be
exactly.
the same. I mean, but also I have to mention that I'm playing with a guitar that is not my guitar, so thanks to lend me this guitar. So for me, okay, now I made some arrangements, so it will be, it's not my instrument, but I can make it. So that's the idea.
But the thing that we still want to work with is the idea of sobriety, because this lecture is titled on predominance, I think, of sobriety, or in insistence or whatever, I don't remember. But but the idea is that predominance of sobriety. So the idea is, as we said before, trying to take out sounds instead of adding. It's not easy. And both we're working differently, but with this idea in mind, in our different paths, because we have lots of other projects, and he has his solo projects and I have mine. But this is something that we have in common. But it's natural also, because maybe as we have grown musically together in a way, we have this in common, which is this idea of sobriety, which sometimes can be, sometimes people think it's minimal music or minimalistic or whatever. I think it's a mistake to say that it's minimal music or minimalist, because we're not minimalists, and minimalism is something very clear in a certain period, in a certain geography, and there are still minimalism around, and minimalist composers, not very many. But we can say that we are connected to that or to those ideas, but I don't consider we're doing minimal music or whatever, because
it's another approach of working with few elements.
Yeah.
And you know, and work with them in
exactly
with a different way. Not working as a repetitions or trying to find another way to deal and build, and don't have the idea that you have to make a finished thing. That the important is the process that you are
developing.
Developing. At the end, it's always a non-finished music.
Yeah.
That it's difficult to say this because maybe it has some negative connotations about how to imagine this. But at the end, it's the way we feel.
But it's true, sometimes I've heard people saying, it's minimal music, because when they hear sparse sounds, very long sounds, it's like when people say if you do a long sound, you're doing a drone. But drone music is something very particular. And I think there are these misunderstandings and this misuse of words, which are in the end like common ideas, which I think it's important to separate and to be very clear, and to know that it's possible to work in same directions, but not with the same tools and with exactly the same ideas. So we work with few sounds, that's true. I don't know if it's minimal or whatever, but minimalistic music, that's for sure not, because we don't belong to that
aesthetic and tradition.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a different way to.
But it's true that the idea is, in a way, trying to be simple, which is quite complicated, in fact.
So now I will ask you, what do you do with your instrument?
What I do?
So, what is the idea behind?
You will see later.
Maybe we can show them.
Well, I use basically a small mixing board, and it's closed in itself, so it produces feedbacks. I generate 2 sounds, and then I use distortion, which I also use as a tone generator doing feedbacks, but with this mixing board. So I have 2 different timbres in a way, and the rest are amplified objects, which are mainly springs because of the long resonance. That's it.
So this is more the melodic side.
Yeah.
And this is more the resonant or the percussive side.
Yeah, but in a way, they are kind of micro melodies also, because there are some tones.
In a very,
in a very large way.
In a large way to express. Yeah.
And I also use a small microphone, which I use for to amplify a small motor I have, which can be different for every concert. And sometimes I have many, and sometimes today I just brought 1, so that's enough. And that's it. As simple as possible, because there's no just microphones, pickups, contact mics, and that's it. No, that's it. That's the, and a bit like Ferran also, because he could use lots of objects to prepare the guitar, but not in this context. We decided not to be.
Well, I do some small preparations, just to work with timbre, but it's
but
not,
compared to all the
possibilities,
possibilities, it's like my setup, because I have lots of other objects that I amplify. I have lots of other springs and many other things which I use in other contexts. But here it's how to reduce. I could reduce more. Maybe next time we will play with the new series. Maybe I will use an acoustic instrument. I don't know. we're thinking about that. But if I use this setup, definitely it will sound different. I will do it with other objects in order to sound different.
¿Qué más?
We can play a bit of the first part of this trilogy. Which you will see sounds like in a continuity. This is called aduc, which is a Catalan word. It's like an ancient word. It's not used very much today, which means like so, which is a word that is always used at the beginning of a sentence to open an idea. So that's why that was the title that we chose for that. The second part that we've just listened is Coda, which is a palindrome, because we wanted that the title, we wanted to tell something about the process, and the last one is an epilogue. Okay, epilogue is quite simple to understand, but these two parts are like palindromic, which maybe you won't listen in the music, but it's not one that it's the contrary of the other, but there's something in a kind of play.
Some kind of
exactly.
palindromic way to work and interact. Okay.
So we're going to play a fragment, maybe in the middle, no? What do you think? Here, for example? Let's see what happens. his turn. What do you think?
Well, as I explained before, for me, I consider this not a guitar or a proper guitar. It's more like a sound object. So one of the things I do first is always to rethink the tuning. Now this guitar is a little bit retuned in a alternative tuning I'm working in. And also because for me it's important like to have to develop really basic and clear ideas like resonance, timbre, some kind of let's say harmonic motifs, or I'm thinking in how is the tuning, the possibilities I have with the guitar. Also I build some kind of preparations that allows me to change the resonance while I'm playing. You will see during the concert if I use it. Also I'm working a lot with the electronics, the basic electronics of the guitar, volume especially, and also things related like attack, decay, sustain, like it's really basic concepts of how sound is produced. So it's the way I work with the guitar. As this is not my guitar, I don't do anything that can affect to the wood. With my guitar, I really work with the wood of the instrument, so I scratch things, resonate things. So for me, it's really important the tuning, because at the end, it's like your springs, something that is really, you make an event on the instrument and you have a particular resonance, so you're interacting these small gestures with the guitar. Is the way. It's more, maybe it goes more like a piano, but I don't like to sing as a piano than a guitar. That's the way I interact with the instrument.
Yeah, but he said piano because the idea of a percussion in a way. And it's something that we have in common in a way, because in both object instruments or instrumental objects, we use both. We use sustained sounds and percussive sounds.
That's how.
We don't I don't have a proper instrument. I built an instrument in a way. And every time there is an event, it seems like it's of an extreme precision, which is not really that, but in the end is what the other day it sounds like that. The other day somebody played our music in a radio program, and he said that we were working with an extreme precision. It's funny because it's not true. It's just the effect of letting things go by themselves. When there is an event, this event has a really big importance. So it seems like it was thought that it had to happen at that moment and not 1 second before or after. But it's just because we try to organize things around these events to make them sound like very accurate.
But this effect is
natural, yeah, in a way.
But we play more as a gesture
Yeah.
than a precision or a precise moment. So
Yeah.
at the end is, but for the other sounds like really precise.
Yeah, it sounds like it
which is not.
almost like composed in a way, which is not. We have no scores, we have no previous idea. For example, now we're going to play, we don't know. It's totally improvised.
But in a clear field.
Exactly.
So
yeah,
that's the important thing.
it's how we want to continue working and develop this idea to be like, because sometimes we talk about freedom in improvised music, which personally, this is very personal, and we could discuss this for hours in another lecture, which I found it stupid because freedom doesn't exist. And especially, but still, if we talk about freedom in improvised music, we found it more interesting to work in a closed thing, because when you know the limits, then you can stretch the limits. That's our freedom in a way. To know where the limitations are in order to expand these limitations. And like this we feel completely free, you know. No, it's just a metaphor. I don't know if you have questions
or you prefer to listen to music and then reveal. Or we will
it's very clear.
This evening, so.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions? You don't have any questions?
Marek, do you have any question?
Yeah, I have just one simple question. But I was checking the list of lectures, and then on your lecture I found the title on predominance of sobriety.
Yeah.
Did we talk about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we talked about it.
Okay, sorry.
But very quickly. Very quickly.
It's a provocative title, so.
But it's always difficult to.
You made the provocation.
Yeah,
to
provocation.
It's a provocation.
We get it.
Yeah.
But
It's
the music
always.
must be a provocation. I mean.
Yeah, you drink water.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a provocation.
It's always difficult to find.
So after the lecture, you can drink just a regular drink.
It's always difficult to find words that language doesn't resolve all the problems, you know. So sometimes it's difficult to find something that identifies.
What is in Spanish? What is in Spanish?
What?
The
Sobriedad.
Also, like
Sobre la predominancia de la sobriedad.
sobriety is
Yeah.
the same.
It's,
Yeah.
it's
When you are
Latin,
not drunk,
Latin
you are
roots.
clean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we are not. We don't drink alcohol. Well, we sometimes, but I mean, sobriety means it's another way of being simple. Because if you say simple, people think easy. But if you say sober, people think you're not drunk, which is also stupid. But being sober means not to do too much. Just do
enough things to
ascetic in a way, but
express.
ascetic has also a kind of religious or anti-religious concept. But to be sober means to go to the right point.
It also means like some kind of
correct.
harshness, like some kind of something that it's not like
clean.
when you say simple, it sounds like oh, it's easy. It's
No.
Exactly.
sober means like hard, like standing on something. And
It's
Find the easiest and simplest way to express something that it's not simple, but
Yes.
at least it contains the essence.
I think it has a more
It has a lot of.
philosophical hidden meaning than when you say simple, because simplicity means like something that there's no compromise with it. It's just because I do it like that, in 5 minutes. And to being sobriety means that there is a concept behind. So it's a way to see things. It's a way to relation to the world in a way, in a more vast.
General reference.
Exactly.
Relation. Claro.
It's many words for me have been taken from their first definition. So today it's very hard to say a word with no connotation, you know.
yes, it's almost impossible.
So it's not easy to find a word that can express a whole world, you know, in that case a sonic world, you know. It's not easy.
Yeah, well, it's quite complicated because we are losing a lot of references
Yeah.
nowadays, and
All the time.
the multiple devaluation of many things, and
Exactly.
not only like simple the authority we are losing, but no, it's much more complex. They're changing independent to the perspective you're looking for, and so
And
on
the
and so on.
intention and how you
Yeah.
use the.
But
So
simplicity.
sometimes it's better to be drunk.
Yeah, exactly. But simplicity without its connotation of something which has no value in a way, because when you say something is simple, it has no value. If you take out this idea of no value related to something which is simple, in fact you have the essence of the word. This word, when you say simple, it's a very, very strong concept in a way. But in our society, it's like it has this aura of something which is no value because it's easy to do, you know. But as I said before, being simple in an art way, in an artistic way, is really complicated. It's not
When
easy.
we are talking about pureness, that something is pure or it's clean.
But you know, it's
But
the
there
same
are
when
words, there
when
are
you say
words and
pure.
yes.
Immediately we think about no sin. You know, there is always this thing,
Oh, you
religious
mean
thing.
The religious.
Of course, because we have the same, let's say, education, religious education. Even if we,
Well, maybe I don't know if we share the same common background with. all
Don't
these.
compare with Poland at the moment. You know that's better.
yeah, I
No,
know.
No, we are just open. You know, and we are hardly open. You know. That's
You know,
why
but we come from
kicked out certain
we come
things
we come.
already. Okay, so there's no discussion anymore longer about certain basic statuses.
Yeah.
You know, after this women's strike last year, almost 1 million people in all cities. You know, then there was like a clean story. Now what you can talk about. This is now this is more clear on our society.
Yeah.
It's extremely divided, but you know why and how. And
That's
where.
for sure.
That,
Yeah.
that is more clean and clear in the way. You're either here or here, which is bad, you know, in general. But by comparison, it's quite start to be clean, and we are suffering. We are in trouble because you know we don't accept this kind of.
Of course,
division, and that's it.
But it seems to be growing everywhere in Europe. So.
I was thinking whether to keep you talking, you know, till 6 o'clock and even longer.
If you want, we can go on.
But maybe
Maybe you have to excuse me. I have
the
to.
short intermission and the break would be
Maybe
better
yes.
idea.
Yes, thank you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
No to co, to krzesełka zostawiamy, tak?
Zostawiamy.
Zostawiamy, bo to jest właśnie na niej wykład. Okay. Tylko uciekamy z tym stoliczkiem malutkim.